Hey guys, what's cracking? Godsman here, coming back with another round of clan collection reviews for Volume 5 and 6. So we got a few clans to go over today, a few cards, and rather than just give a quick overview, I think I'm just going to have timestamps down in the description below if you just want to skip to whatever cards you want my opinion on specifically. And without any further ado, let's begin. So we've got Megacolony to start with, two cards in fact, a grade 2 and a grade 1. So let's go over it. The first one is the grade 2, which is Megacolony Battler S. So Battler S has two skills. The first one being that when it's placed on rear circle, you Soul Blast 1. Your opponent chooses a card from hand, calls it as rest to the RC, and draws a card. The thing that's called cannot stand, and it does not activate auto abilities from the call. Second skill is an act in the drop. If your opponent does not have any stand units, then you can pitch a card from hand to call this to an open rear circle, again from drop, and Soul Charge 1. Now, I actually want to go over Megacolony Battler M before I actually talk about Battler S a bit, but, mixed emotions, just to say that outright. Megacolony Battler M. So, Battler M has two skills as well. The first one being that when it's put on Guardian Circle, it gets 5k shield for every two of your opponent's rested units. The second effect is that when it's retired from the Guardian Circle, if your opponent does not have any stand units, you call it to an open rear circle and Soul Charge 1. Okay, so when looking at both of these cards, we get a pretty clear impression that they want to provide like more means of soul charging in Megacolony, which is appreciated because soul charging is something that is a bit odd in Megacolony because there are, depending on the deck you play, there are just some games where you have a lot of soul, like more than you know what to deal with, and then there are other times where, I don't know, you've done a bunch of like intrude scissors off of Gridoras and suddenly pff, your soul's gone by like turn 4 or something. So this level of like utility for soul is nice in that respect. However, I don't really see these getting played that much, and let me go over why. So S is a little bit interesting with its first effect, because sure, okay, you Soul Blast for it, Soul Blast is not a bad cost, right? Calling something to the field as rest from the opponent, sure, it can give you opportunity to get a Cradle marker, but then your opponent draws. So they have somewhat +1 in the usual scenario. In the worst case scenario for them, their field is full, so you've just let them filter. That's not good for you when you're benefiting the opponent like that. In doing some preliminary play testing with Assault Rider, he was actually playing Megacolony, and whenever he used S and used it several times, I, as the opponent, was ironically grateful that he did, because it gave me a chance to just see more cards that I would have preferred in hand than whatever I actually called to the field. So yeah, that does not bode well for S's viability as a card. The second skill doesn't really help much either, because essentially what the second skill does is it like exchanges a card in hand for a vanilla grade 2 that just gives you a Soul Charge 1. Like that's about it. It doesn't have like any of the skills to buff itself or paralyze units or anything like that. It does combo with the first effect, I suppose, so that is kind of nice for recursion. Is it worth the discard? Is it worth what you would have called? Maybe. Like if for instance you just really need like a grade 2 up there just to get some like attacking through, but you don't have any grade 2s, you just have like a bunch of other units in the hand that wouldn't fit the bill, then I guess S can exchange one of those cards in hand for itself. So I guess that's cool. S is pretty middling. I don't really see a place for it though in the deck, because when you have a lot of other useful cards, like Sticky Bullets and Gridora, obviously, but then there's a lot of generic stuff, right? You got Machining Mantis is really cool. The new Machining Armor Beetle is really nice to have as a grade 2. Elite Mutant Giraffe is another really nice grade 2. There's just a lot of grade 2s here that I would put above Battler S. And especially if you're doing Cradle stuff, because then you have like Stamping Red or whatever the name is, and things of that nature. I just don't see where you put S. It is neat though. Yeah, there's not much else to say about it. But to get my thoughts out about M, which, by the way, guys, don't think it... I'm not sure how many of you guys know, but I saw immediately S-M. Really? S and M? I mean, look at the arts. Yeah. Bushy really did do that. Okay, so back to the card effect. So yeah, Battler M, yeah, it's a defender, and it is a fairly good shield that is essentially a +1 when you think about it, and a plus soul charge. So I actually like M more than S. And just on paper, he's a pretty solid card. The only thing that I critique about M is that he's even worse off when it comes to finding space in the deck in a Megacolony deck, because Megacolony has a ton of really nice grade 1s. You've got High Class Moth, you've got, of course, your grade 3 Searcher and Little Darkest, you've got grade 1 Giraffe, you've got Brawny Jerk, you just got so much you can do. Hell, if you're doing Cradles, then of course you're going to be running the grade 1 that allows you to pop and get another unit, which would be Mercy Railroad, I believe, right? Yeah. So there's just a load of grade 1s that are going to, like, precede Battler M. And let's not talk about, like, the real MVP of Megacolony as a grade 1 right now. Brilliant Blister. Yeah, that's also a defensive unit, but that is far more, like, proactive and devastating to shutting down your opponent's offense than M will ever be. So yeah, he's a cool card. He just doesn't have a place, if you ask me. So yeah, that's the Megacolony reveals. Kind of, I mean, they're cool on paper. They just don't have a place as it stands. There's better stuff to choose. So I really hope that they get a good reverse and not a machining reverse. Please, Lord, don't do that. Give me like a draft reverse or something and make it good, and then I can say, okay, at least Bushy did something for Megacolony. Because otherwise, yeah, they kind of got the short end of the straw, not gonna lie. Anyway, let's move on to the next reveals. We're back. Narukami got another grade 3 boss. And who is it today? You may not see immediately from the artwork here because he's got a bit of a different angle, but it's Armor Break Dragon. Baby. I love this one. This just embodies the spirit of like Narukami. You know, just beat him hard, one-shot him. You know, I just love what Armor Break Dragon did back in the day. The epitome of a high-risk, high-reward card. Plus, you know, whenever Naoki used it in the anime, it was just, you know, it felt like peak Vanguard somewhat, you know. Those were cool battles whenever he used Armor Break. It's really sad he only used it twice though, right? Or am I wrong about that? I think he only used it twice. Anyway, so let's talk about Armor Break Dragon in V. What does it do? So, spoiler alert, it's amazing, but Act on Van costs you Counterblast 3. Yes, CB3. Bind all of your opponent's front row rear guards, and for each of your opponent's open front row rear circle, this unit gets 10k power and count them 2 crit. Yeah, and that's not all. Second effect. When this unit attacks, if you have 4 or more cards in your damage zone, until end of that battle, this unit gets 10k power, and your opponent can call Sentinels to Guardian Circle from hand. Oh, Hamiel, is that you? Okay. To actually be more fair, this isn't quite like Hamiel for a couple reasons, but in a sense, it might as well be just as dangerous, because let's go over Armor Break. Yes, if you do the CB3, you are going to get at minimum 5 damage with this guy should he connect. Yeah, he's basically able to just one-shot the opponent right there. This thumbnail, no lie, this is just like one punch. Just go from like 1 to 6, or hell, if you hit a crit, that's like even 0 to 6 gaming right there, you know? That's incredible. Now, of course, you'd be like, well, then they're just gonna guard it. But let's talk about numbers a bit, because one thing that needs to be understood is that if you get all these effects, the Armor Break Dragon starts off at 42k with Sentinel Restrict. Yeah, and assuming he gets at minimum an 8k booster, that means that's 50 with a Sentinel Restrict. That's starting to get a little bit dangerous. That's starting to get into like the iffy territory, because then your opponent has to, at minimum, guard with 40, just raw shield, 40 shield, just to be able to one to pass this. This isn't including being able to buff it by other effects. Things like Tonic Stinger, I think, can buff it. You can buff it with other effects, or even just to have it, give it like stronger boosters, like the grade 3 Searcher could be a stronger booster for it. Yeah, there's ways to potentially make Armor Break bigger, and when you do that, he becomes even scarier. And in fact, as if Eradicators didn't have a godly enough matchup against this particular type of clan already, Armor Break is all the more devastating in an Excel clan, because then he's going to, even though the crits are kind of redundant, because let's say your opponent had just one extra Excel marker, yes, he'll get +6 crit to be 7 damage. I mean, duh, they'll die either way. The fact that he gets an extra 10k means that now his starting average is going to be 52, and with the 8k booster is 60. That's just scarier, because of the Sentinel Restrict. This would have been kind of garbo if not for the Sentinel Restrict, but because that's what his Limit Break does, this could actually be a real deck strategy. I don't think there's enough things that actually support armor break in V Premium right now to make him viable enough as the main Vanguard, but as like a Saki like 1 or 2 of Include is like a generic Narukami thing, he's great. Like, he can definitely take the opponent by storm and snatch a game from like the jaws of defeat easily, as it say. I'm like at a loss for words. I can't even English correctly, right? This thing is phenomenal. Now, as I said, in V Premium, there's not a lot of ways of boosting this thing up. In Premium, that's a bit of a different story, but hold your horses, right? Because in Premium, there's a lot more ways of guarding armor break, because G Guardians can kind of doo-doo on this a little bit, depending on what you're going up against. Not all G Guardians are that beefy. Like, for instance, you're going up against, say, like Joker or something, they're probably still going to be really threatened by this. But then what if you just go over to any of the clans that got the pseudo PG cards, right? For instance, Shadow Paladin, Deep Graver can just pseudo PG this and you're good to go. Hell, even if not, Deep Graver can be like at maximum 40k shield. That's most of what armor breaks attack is anyway. It's quite devastating. Now, you do have over trigger in that format, so you could always hit over trigger, and then if this thing didn't murder enough already, it can go twice for that. So if your opponent somehow guarded the first one, yeah. It's all just to say that it's probably not as strong in Premium as it is in V Premium, but V Premium doesn't have like ways of buffing this thing up to the point where we get like Hamiel strats. You see, the thing that made Hamiel dangerous was it was really quick. You couldn't play around it very easily, and you could have it reach absurd numbers because of all the rescue checks. With this one, it's more kept in line because to get the most out of it, you need the limit break, and you need a CB3 in a deck that actually can't countercharge for crap for the most part, unless you have the Eradicator do, and even then, that's sort of piece reliant. So it's very well reined in, but with every new support we get, if we have more and more ways of buffing up armor break, this can get crazy out of hand real quickly. So let's keep an eye on this guy because he's got massive potential. Like arguably even more potential than most of the other cards that we've seen in this set already. And it just goes to show that this set has real nutty power ceiling. Like I mentioned it before and I'm just going to keep on saying it. Clan Collection Volume 5 and 6 has raised the ceiling in terms of power for the Clan Collections compared to the previous 2 iterations. Now, again, I'm not sure how many people agree with me at this point, but I think as we get more and more, it's becoming more apparent that, you know, yeah, there's a lot more like high power stuff than there was in like 1, 2, or 3, or 4. That I'm just saying, and to just kind of give a little bit of a preview, the next card's going to just add to my theory because, oh boy, it's a doozy. See you there. On second thought, let's go ahead and just get these out of the way because the card I was saying was quite a doozy. Yeah, I'm going to save that for last, actually. You know, leave it a surprise, end the video on a really high note because next up we got Pale Moon, and I'm going to say it, Chief, not very impressed. But let's go over why. So we've got Sword Magician Sarah, which some of us knew already thanks to it being like previewed for the next week. They said it was going to be on the stream, which, speaking of, Ashley Reverse is going to be on the next Tuesday stream. Really hype, waiting to see what she does, and I hope she gets more Julians to come with her, because if not, Salome is going to be as high roll as it ever will be. Anyway, so yeah, here's Sarah and a couple of just somewhat generic Pale Moon cards kind of locked into her. You'll see what I mean. Okay, so let's go down the list. So starting off with the grade 1, which is Engaging Assistant. So Engaging's got 2 skills. Take a shot every time I say something has 2 skills. You might die of alcohol poisoning. So first skill is when it's placed on Vanguard rear from hand, that's specific, from hand, you peep top 5 from the deck, you choose a grade 3 from among them and put it into your soul. The second skill is an Act on Rear, which is to retire this unit and then you choose any grade 3 card from your soul and put it into your hand. But if you don't have Sword Magician Sarah as the Vanguard, you have to choose a card from your hand and discard it. It's okay. The first skill I do like, because if you actually do have a grade 3 that you want to like see on the field more often than not, then putting into the soul is just like your sort of middle ground for being able to just call it out to the field. So in things like Silverthorn and whatnot, yeah, you can get Dorian. In things like bunnies, you may be able to get like some beast tamers, like Golden Beast Tamer or whatever. This might actually be pretty good in bunny, depending. I'm not sure though. But that aside, grade 3 is kind of a weird grade for Pale Moon. I'm just going to say that straight out. There's not a lot of what you would consider strong rearguard grade 3s in the deck. So making it a theme, which, yes, this is going to be the theme of Sarah's lineup, it seems a little subpar, right? And without a lot of grade 3s to build on this idea, you're kind of stuck with a lot of these other grade 3s that just have an effect on the rear rather than have effects that are super pertinent, such as Comicality Chimera, or even the OG V-Series Lukier, which can get 10k as a rear if you've called to him or card from the soul. So yeah, it's a cool effect in a deck that I don't think can capitalize on very much. And the second effect is a similar regard. Yeah, okay, cool. Getting a grade 3 from your soul and putting it to the hand is pretty sweet. Not gonna lie, that is pretty cool, but the fact that you then have to pitch on top of retiring this if you don't have Sarah makes this effectively a -1. And that doesn't feel that great. Sure, okay, the Excel will get you back a card, but still, yeah, it's decent, if anything. That's about it. So yeah, engaging Assistant, maybe in some niche circumstances might see generic play, but I wouldn't hold my breath. Anyway, so Pop Out Chimera. This one's actually a bit cooler. So Pop Out has 2 skills. One is continuous on rear circle, deck, soul, and trigger zone. It gets grade +1, so it's essentially a grade 3. Supports the grade 3 sub gimmick that we're seeing here. So yeah, enough said there. Second skill, when it's placed on Van only, so just Van circle, one timing of this, you counterblast 1, soul charge 3, and if you soul charge 1 or more triggers, you draw a card. Yep, that's basically Demonic Executioner, but Van only. So yeah, take that for what you will. It's a pretty cool ride. Now, final skill is pretty neat, which is a continuous. If you call 2 or more cards from the soul this turn, it gets 10k power. Okay, yeah, it's basically Rising Dragon, but more generic. That on its own makes it pretty neat because then it's sort of a beater for you. As a ride target, it's also pretty neat. I don't know if you'll play it, but I think this has more opportunity to be played because sometimes in Pale Moon, you just kind of want a beater. You just want things that can get over defensives, and this guy on an Excel 2 will get over defensives, so that's really nice. So yeah, Pop Out could actually be cool, and we just can't underestimate the fact that having it get an extra grade is, that is neat because then it is technically searchable off of a grade 3 searcher, so hey, that's pretty cool. It's funny how, yeah, this thing might as well have been a grade 3 in the drop zone at this point, but hey, why take up more text than normal? Hell, if Ildona had all these areas but not the drop zone, it wouldn't be potentially busted in Luard, ironically enough, so I guess we see the opposite end of the spectrum. Okay, so yeah, going back to this card, it's pretty cool, but again, it heavily depends on what kind of a Pale Moon deck you're running. Pale Moon seems to have more or less figured out deck lists at this point, except maybe for bunnies. That one's a little bit weird. So yeah, finally we've got Sword Magician Sarah. 2 effects, woo, another shot. First skill is an act, Van once per turn. Counterblast 1, search your deck for any grade 3 card, call it to RC, and shuffle the deck. Until end of turn, it gains this continuous ability, which allows your grade 3 rear guards to get boosted in 2k power. Bastion, is that you? Anyway, second skill is an auto on Van. At the end of the battle, your drive check revealed a grade 3 or greater card. You put 2 normal units from rear circle on the bottom of your deck in any order. Choose up to 2 grade 3 cards from your soul and call them to rear guard. They tried. They did. Yeah, I made the Bastion comment before, and it does feel very Bastion. It has it all. Drive checked a grade 3 in order to get more multi-attack. Give your grade 3s an extra 2k power. Just grade 3 this, grade 3 that, It's got all the call signs of it, but it doesn't feel as eloquent because it's in a deck that doesn't really emphasize grade 3s, at least in Bastion, which I know is an Overdress deck, so they kind of feel incomparable to one another, but at least in Bastion you had grade 3s that took pride in the fact that you were going to run a bunch of grade 3s, and so they capitalized on that a lot. With this one, your grade 3s, again, they weren't really designed for a deck like this, they just feel like they just do their own fringe kind of thing, whether it's to be a power up or maybe a counter charge or something. It's like as if you have a toolbox technically, but those tools are just kind of old and rusty. So yeah, Sora is, I mean Sarah, not Sora, that's a Kingdom Hearts character. Sarah just kind of, for me, I did play around against it, and it didn't do anything. Heck, there was one time where the dude twin drived and he didn't even see grade 3, so he didn't get to call any units from Soul. That was the saddest days ever. I mean, just imagine a Pale Moon deck that can potentially not even call stuff from Soul that turn. Yeah, I think that might say it all. So these don't go out the bang, they go out with the whimper, if anything. If they got more support, maybe, you know, maybe a promo could help them out. You know, if they got a really, really nutty promo. Which, speaking of nutty promos, that Messiah promo, that's something else, guys. I may or may not review that. This, on the other hand, is just kind of dog water right now. It's pretty unfortunate. I don't want to be dismissive of it. If you guys who are Pale Moon mains know more than I do about it in the comment section below, please do tell me, because I want to find some good in this, because deadass, great artwork. But as it stands, I'm not impressed, Chief. Anyway, let's move on now to an actually really impressive card for the final reveal of the night. See you there. All right. We ended off with a gold Paladin reveal, and holy crap. Is that a Liberator that's not Bluish Flame, I spy? Why, yes, it is. But for those of you who wanted a Liberator Gancelot, or even a Gancelot Zenith, or hell, a Monarch Sanctuary Alfred that was a gold Paladin, no, none of those were the Liberator of the day. No. Instead, completely from left field, we got Liberator Holy Shine Dragon of all things. And so, what does he do? How many effects does he have? 2 effects. Yep, take another shot. First effect, Auto. When this unit is placed by writing on a unit with Liberator in its card name, cost Counterblast 1. And search your deck for a grade 3 card with Liberator in its card name that's different name from this unit, so you can't, you know, just write Holy Shine on top of Holy Shine. You write it as stand and shuffle your deck. If you have 4 more cards in your damage zone, look at the top 5 cards of the deck, choose up to 2 unit cards from amongst them, call them to rear and shuffle. Now, the second effect is an auto from the soul, which is at the end of your turn. If you are at 4 more cards in the damage zone, you may return it from the soul to the hand. I mean, hey, it's no Gancelot or Gancelot Zenith, but holy crap. They really got something here, guys. This was nuts. Let me just go over why Holy Shine Dragon is such a ridiculous card. For one thing, we just had Percival hit to 1, and we now find a card that dead ass can selectively search Percival from the deck and write it. Yeah, it does that. And what this means then is not only would you normally get an extra Excel marker because you're doing Superior Ride each turn, but by going to Percival, you get 2 extra Excel markers that turn. Getting a little much there, don't you think? Now, on top of that, it also has a couple of limit break skills, which may be like, oh, well, yeah, you know, it's reined in by limit break. But once you have limit break, these things go wild. Getting 2 cards for essentially free, I guess it's a part of the counterblast technically, but in another sense you kind of consider free, but anyway, getting 2 cards for this low cost, yeah, that's like on par with the Vortimer when you ride Duke over grade 2 Vortimer, which is such a tempo increase. Like that's stonks, that's straight value. On top of being able to get an Excel marker without having to get rid of cards in your hand, like how Percival does it, you have essentially, when using this entire effect, +3. On top of Percival breaking even but getting you an Aggro Veil in the process, which is a +4. And then if you were to go to the end of the turn, taking this from the soul to the hand is then a +5. Do you see all the plussing that is coming from this? It is incredible how much this does. And you don't even have to go for Percival. You can go for Prominence Core. And Prominence Core is just as cool because Prominence Core, especially if you have a Percival in the soul, that is a +3 potentially as well. So there's more plussing, but it gets really big, it buffs up your field, it can get a crit, it's a devastating turn. And just having the ability to selectively choose between either of these options as your Vanguard is insane. And it's not like, oh, well, once you ride over, you know, like you choose Percival or whatever, well, okay, there's your Holy Shine done, you can't do a Prominence Core. Yeah, dude. The second effect means that even if you ride over with, say, a Percival, at the end of the turn, you add it back to hand, next turn, ride it again, go into Prominence Core this time, and now you're sitting on a crap ton of Excel markers. And you've got the Percival installed to make Prominence Core ideal. And if that wasn't like already kick-ass enough, this makes Liberator somewhat toolboxy in a bit, because now you can choose different grade 3s for different situations. Our representation of grade 3 Liberators is almost non-existent, but as time goes on, like maybe the year 2030, we may finally get Aichi's Liberators, and when we start doing that, then you have the Gancelots, the Alfred. You could also get Wolfang Liberator Garmor that could be potentially devastating. There's a lot of like Aichi grade 3 Vanguards that were part of the Liberator subclan, and Holy Shine has access to all of them potentially. So this is going to age like wine, like straight wine. And I'm a little concerned that this might mean that Percival might get the smoke again, or at the very least they may choice restrict it with Percival, which, oh my god, how many times is Percy going to have to, be shifted and moved around the ban list, I mean, that card just can't catch a break because it's so freaking good. And this just enables it even more. So yeah, Holy Shine Dragon, a definite include in Liberator decks. It could very well revolutionize those decks. I'm not sure how much of a boost they got from it, but it's potentially massive. And just doing a bit of like testing with it, I mean, admittedly, I felt a little cocky, When I didn't see it, I just guarded a bunch early and didn't take a lot of damage. And then when I saw it, went to 4, smacked down hard, got a lot of card advantage, guarded next turn, and then just did it all over again. And the opponent just like, well, I guess I die. Like, seriously, Holy Shine is just insane. It's the absolute bonkers. And it's somewhat refreshing to see this, considering how much of like a mid, if we're being generous, or straight up disappointment Chrome Jailer was. Like, man, this is night and day. But I'm gonna stop geeking out about Holy Shine. We're gonna see what impact this has on the meta. I suspect it'll be something though, because V is probably open to something this insane actually making a dent. But again, only time will tell. A deck's only as good as the ability of the players to take an interest in it and optimize it to the point of competitive play. So who knows? Maybe we'll have some more Liberator people pop up, just like we saw a lot of Revenger people. I digress. That'll do it for today. A lot of good reveals here. The Pale Moons were kind of meh, but aside from that, and I guess Megacolony was kind of meh, so actually maybe not necessarily good reveals so much as like diametric opposites. You've got Shine and Armor Break being potentially the nuts, and then you've got the MC and Pale Moon reveals just being whatever, man. It balances out nightly to a pretty mixed bag review this time around, but I'm going to look on the bright sides, being those two aforementioned cards. How about you guys? Let me know in the comment section down below which cards here you're looking forward to, if any, or if there's cards on the horizon that you're looking forward to, and what your theories on what they're going to do with those are. A lot more limit break effects are being introduced into this set, so if you were trying to hold off on the limit break because they don't get adapted very often, you may want to include that in your custom ideas. Anyway, if you want to see more Vanguard content, do subscribe down below and turn on that notification bell. And with that, take care. God bless.